Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I'll compare Yokai Watch's liminal spaces, the Infinite Tunnel in 2 and Hazy Lane in 3. These definitely are some of the creepiest parts of this game, which surprisingly didn't scare me when I was younger, even though other things did. Ironically now I do find these to be really creepy. Before this video, the most I'd done of these was up to when you fight the boss a couple times. I'll discuss and compare the random events that happen, the boss fights, how creepy/weird they are, and the lore from what I understand. Well, let's start with the Infinite Tunnel. The Infinite Tunnel is a tunnel that is, well, infinite. Or is it? Different factors can increase or decrease the length of the tunnel. Most of the time you do want it to be longer, to befriend rarer yokai, or if you're like me and just want you to do it for the boss, you'd want the exit to be closer. There will be various NPCs to talk to, and depending on what you answer, the exit will get closer, the exit will get farther, you get an item, or you battle a yokai. The wiki tells you what answer does what, and I'll link it in the description if you need help, or I know that some people like figuring things out on their own. The most notable of these NPCs is the Tangler, who has many different scenarios and asks the player what they would do. He's the only NPC to have multiple questions. There are other NPCs who don't ask a question, but do say really weird and creepy/eerie things. Like there's a guy waiting for his girlfriend to come, and a cop who says, "Good luck, we won't be able to rescue you by the way." And there's this man who will tell you that you've won the lottery and ask you to come with him. Life lesson, kids, if someone tells you you've won the lottery, don't go with them. Occasionally, the player will come across 3 dancers wearing Hyotoko masks, I hope I'm saying that right. Sometimes after passing them, they will jump scare you, and you then turn into one of them for 20 yards with a decreased walking speed. As creepy as these games can be sometimes, I think this is the only instance of an intentional jump scare, and I say intentional as way too many times I've just been randomly jump scared by Terror Time, the red box guy, the clown, the chicks, the old lady asking for directions, and heck, even just Nate putting on his raincoat. Which might I say look really weird, like their mouths are just like sideways or whatever. I just don't really like it. Sometimes you'll encounter Face-Off who will disguise himself as a player, except with no face, and will run away and drop an item. Another big event is that sometimes a train will appear, and if you choose to take it, it'll either go forwards closer to the exit or backwards further away, and you actually lose some yards. And it's completely random, so it's a lose-lose situation, and you should probably never take the train unless you want to risk it. Yeah, there's even a chicken who asks if he tastes nice, and if you say yes, or you say it's delicious, you'll get a chicken thigh, which is very weird. Sometimes there are vending machines which will appear, and depending on how much money you put in, you'll either get an item, or you'll battle a yokai. Sometimes at the side of the tunnel, there will sometimes be a switch, and if you decide to push the switch, the exit can either get close by a lot, get close by a bit, get farther by a bit, or get farther by a lot. The main reason you want to go far in the Infinite Tunnel is to befriend rare yokai, as the further you go, the higher rank the yokai, and with over 5,000 yards you can start to friend some Crankakai exclusive, like Cruncha, Devourer, and Demona. Games with Will actually has a really good video showcasing what happens late into the tunnel, and I'll link it in the description. There is a secret yokai in the tunnel. There's an NPC who talks about the 13th exit door. By the way, there are exit doors along the tunnel that you can take at any time. And the same cop I mentioned earlier says he's looking for a nefarious criminal. Taking door number 13 will lead you to none other than Nefarious. Also another thing, the further you go into the tunnel will also change the appearance at 2,000, 5,000, 8,000 and 10,000, and the cycle repeats. That's most of what's in the tunnel. Now we'll talk about the tunnel. The tunnel is a daily event, and unlike others in Yokai Watch 2, forces you to save before entering to stop save scumming, and resets at 6 AM like every other daily event. The tunnel is located in Harrisville, a location the player has to visit in the story. The first few times the tunnel will be shorter, but gets longer the more you enter it. I didn't actually know this, but thanks to this person on Reddit, the tunnel's length actually changes by 1,000 every time you go into it, up until 20,000, so that's useful to know if you didn't already know that, which I didn't, so that's useful. There's also no turning back and no saving in the tunnel. The music is really eerie and creepy, which I like and fits the tunnel. Every 1,000 yards, a weird echoing sound is heard, which adds a lot to the creepiness. Now I bet you're dying to know what's at the end of the tunnel. For the first few times, the player will see a mysterious girl called Moody Mary and sometimes a mysterious yokai called Malice. On the 6th completion, Moody Mary points at the player claiming you made her cry, which starts the battle with Malice. It is hard to talk about difficulty for side bosses, unless they're intended to be the ultimate challenge like Cat Cradle or Kabuking, because these can literally be fought at any time. You can fight Malice when you just unlock the tunnel if you want, you just need to wait 6 days and not make any progress. Whilst you can technically fight him during the story, I did some testing and it seems like he's intended to be fought with around level 60 to 70 yokai, which I could be wrong about as I fought him in the sports center using my playthrough team, and some are higher level than others. His actual gimmick is that sometimes he'll put down logs on either side of him, which locks your yokai wheel until they are destroyed, kinda like Cat Cradle. He also sometimes targets a specific spot in the front row with arrows above it, and when he uses his ultimate, that's where it'll hit. Overall, an okay boss, but nothing too special. After you defeat Malice, the next times you exit the Infinite Tunnel, Moody Mary will give you an item. Now onto the lore. Despite what you might think, Moody Mary is not a yokai, as she doesn't know what a yokai medal is, and she appears as a human on the map. We don't actually know who or what she is, but we do know that the tunnel changes length based on her mood, and that Malice was created from her imagination because she was lonely. But the wiki also says on the same page that Malice is a manifestation of her nightmares. I mean, both could be true, but I don't know why you'd create a being from your nightmares to keep you company. But I don't know, I could say somewhere in the game that I either forgot about or don't know about. Speaking of Malice, he calls Moody Mary his daughter for some reason, and is also stated in Yokai Watch 3 by Full Kappa that he resembles Lord Enma, which I don't see but could imply a connection. The Infinite Tunnel is actually based on a real-life haunted tunnel, the Kiyotaki Tunnel. It's said that various things like scary incidents occurring at night, a woman's scream being heard, and the length of the tunnel changing on a return trip. You can see the inspiration there. And the tunnel also has a dark history with a lot of violence and death. I'll stop there, but you can look up more if you're interested. And that's about it for the Infinite Tunnel. I really like it, and it's very eerie and weird. Now let's move on to Hazy Lane. The Infinite Tunnel has been sealed off, and only appears in a Gate of Whimsy, and is replaced with Hazy Lane. Hazy Lane works similarly to the Infinite Tunnel, with the main difference, other than the random events, is the Infinite Tunnel is just a straight line, whereas Hazy Lane can have winding paths. It takes place outside, which in some ways is creepier than the Infinite Tunnel, because you can see that the field is empty and nothing is going on. It's like those dreams you have as a kid, where you just get lost in the middle of nowhere and you try to find something, but it's just an empty, endless void. Though I guess that applies to basically all outdoor liminal spaces, but still. And in other ways, it's less eerie than the Infinite Tunnel. As the Infinite Tunnel, you can't see what's out there, and at times feels claustrophobic being trapped in a tunnel that just goes on forever. The doors are now also replaced by scarecrows. The song definitely has more going on than the Infinite Tunnel. First off, at the start, you hear an eerie voice saying, "Thanks for traveling with us today, folks." That was a terrible impression, but oh well. Yes, that is part of the song. It starts off quite creepy, and there is a more happy sounding part. And then they reuse the Infinite Tunnel theme, and I find that part the most creepy and even a bit unsettling. Though unfortunately you don't really hear it in game, as you're interrupted by a yokai battle every 5 seconds. In the Infinite Tunnel, the song is mostly similar, so you don't miss out on much. Though sometimes I'll wait in front of the yokai so I can hear more of the song. It seems that yokai more frequently appear in Hazy Lane than they do in the Infinite Tunnel. The fact that it's in Greenfield adds to the mysteriousness, as well. Yes, you visit in the story to unlock Maripo, but it's not a big area and feels separated from everything else. It's also one of the only areas to have no music. All this, and we haven't even talked about the new events. It's also interesting that it's in meters rather than yards. How big is a yard anyway? Surely it's similar to a meter. There are a ton of new events that were added. Smaller ones like randomly hearing loudspeaker dysfunction noises or footsteps or the music stopping and hearing a heartbeat add a lot to the atmosphere. Its screen can even turn upside down, and if you see a man the right way up hanging, and if you poke him he will fall. It's really weird. Like, how was he the right way up? Where did he go? Very mysterious. Sometimes the screen shakes. Sometimes Moody Mary can be seen out of a giant floating window. One of the weirder things is that sometimes the player will be chased by Skulk, the boss, or I kid you not, a giant lobster, which normally would be scary, but I just can't take the giant lobster seriously. A creature resembling Skulk will also sometimes appear behind you, and even the right way up when the screen is flipped. The NPCs work the same as in the tunnel, and the Tangler is even back, all just as weird. Plenty of new NPCs, my favourite being the Pebble guy. Other events include randomly being asked to freeze, your classmates giving you a round of applause, or an unavoidable human tunnel that makes the exit farther. That one especially is annoying when you don't want to go far and just doing it for the boss. The Hyotoko trio is back and works the same, and so is the train. How does that even work in Hazy Lane? Though for my experiences it's way less common in this game. Though the other day I was playing and I got it like way too many times. More times than I got in the Infinite Tunnel that day. As well as finding a rare yokai far into the lane, certain events also allow you to find rare yokai. The upside down guy can become Shriek, and you can randomly find Master Odin or any of the OG befriendable bosses. edit, I wrote this and did Hazy Lane and only found Spoink and S3 Snaggerjag, though I swear you can find Slimander as well. You can find Null, and talking to one of the NPCs a certain amount of times will let you battle Arachnia. There's also a phone booth with various different calls. One of them is a creepy story about a cat, with each time letters will disappear, eventually saying, "We will never let you go." Another is a prank call, which asks you to click back to title, and if you do, it actually takes you back to the title, which I never fell for, but I imagine it'd be funny seeing someone fall for it. I'm pretty sure Abdallah fell for it, and that was quite funny. Another talks about a festival as a reference to the Hyotoko trio. You can even get a call from Grainpa and battle and befriend him. As well as another new NPC that was added called Monster, who will similarly to the Tangler ask various different questions. And that's all for the most notable new events. Now we'll talk about the other side. Something I forgot to mention about the Infinite Tunnel is that the exit can have different appearances based on the seasons, and the same is true here. The first few times you complete Hazy Lane, sometimes the exit will be a major? Sometimes? Oh no, I was meant to say manor. Sometimes the exit will be a manor. When you go inside and look out the window, you'll see another player, which you then start playing as. Is the original still trapped in the house? Is this some clone? What the heck, that's really creepy to think about. The second time this happens, you see a creature resembling Skulk behind the second player. And on the sixth run, you see Skulk, which starts the fight. Like Malice, he can technically be fought during the story, though he's much weaker than Malice, being around level 50. His gimmick is much more interesting than Malice's, and I actually really like it. The goal is to not let Skulk get to the front, but every time you move your yokai, he can move and get closer to the front. When he does this, he unleashes his ultimate. I really don't like the way he and his mouth move during this. I find it really creepy, weird, and unsettling. It reminds me of Fecto Forgo from Kirby and the Forgotten Land. He isn't too hard, but recently when I replayed Yokai Watch 3, I decided to go for Skulk first in the postgame. I was also simultaneously replaying 2 and doing Infinite Tunnel, so I thought might as well do Hazy Lane as well to save time. By the time I got to Skulk, my team was around level 50 and it was quite a decent challenge. But I don't think that Hazy Lane is based off anything. Skulk is based on the yokai Beto Beto-san, I'm hoping I said that right, who are harmless but eerily follow people getting closer and closer, but if you turn around nothing's there. Which is also partially the inspiration for Pitapat. I'd recommend looking at yokai.com if you want to learn more. All of this stuff is actually quite interesting. Like the tunnel, Moody Mary will give you an item every time you go back after defeating Skulk, one of which is an Origin part, which I really wanted and went for. Needless to say, Hazy Lane is not very fun when you're trying to get to the exit as far as possible after beating Skulk, but it was totally worth it though. Machinian is complete. If the colours on my avatar were in the game, you know that's what I'd have, and yes, I know there's a blue cape which is closer to the purple, but I think the red looks better in game with everything else. Not much is added to the lore this time around, but leaves a lot of things up to interpretation, like what happened to the Infinite Tunnel and why is Hazy Lane now here? What even is Skulk and his relation to Moody Mary, and all these unexplained events in the lane? I feel Hazy Lane is overall better, creepier, and more mysterious, but like I've said, in some ways Infinite Tunnel feels more eerie. Well, this is probably the closest I've gotten to playing a horror game, and I'm not really a horror kind of guy. I do want to make a video discussing other creepy aspects of these games like Clown Timer or the Red Box Man. Let me know if you would want to see that. As usual, like and sub if you like this and want to see more, and comment your opinion on the Infinite Tunnel and Hazy Lane, and which you think is better. Also, shout out to the awesome 664 for, with a bit of help, managing to get what all the yokai in the thumbnail of the Bad Impressions video have in common, so well done to the awesome 664. Not much else to say, so I'll see you in the next one.